Thank you, past President Sripo, for those lengthy piece. In fact, President, I think I'll have to shorten it to 2 lines only. I think it's not necessary to say that over and over again. Anyway, thank you, Sripo, for those kind words. And President, PDGs, distinguished Rotarians, and my fellow Rotarians and any guests, welcome to this evening. Right, my talk basically is on early Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. That is its formation, its foundation, and its birth actually. And therefore, I will not be doing more than 2-3 presidents from the beginning. And I hear that in Pat Lim wants to come for our meeting. I don't see her yet. She has a keen interest in the library that we made, but I will not be touching the library today. However, with your permission, President, I'll share my screen.
Please go ahead, Dr. Shah. Take over, please.
Right. Presume you can see my slides. Right. See, this slide shows you that I've written about the history of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, part 1, the inception. The inception meaning the beginning itself, with not too much details of the other presidents that we have all along the way until now. Right, emblazoned onto this slide are very distinct Rotary Club of Johor Bahru mementos. Starting from the top left is the logo of the state itself, which is used in our banner, probably the first in the world. Then the president's jewel, which was given to us by Sultan Ibrahim himself, and see that his own logo has been emblazoned into our badge. And our Rotary ties, the two that we made, these two were made in my year as president. Right. Rotary awareness in our part of the world, Malay Peninsula, Siam, and Singapore, appears to have its first stirring into life around 1928 and 1929. This is evidenced by the appearance of 8 clubs between 1829 and 1930. Now, how did this happen? Honestly, my dear friends, I thought that many of our younger Rotarians would be here to see what I'm presenting because they need to know about their own club. But sadly, I don't see many of the young Rotarians today. Doesn't matter, we'll carry on. So Rotary awareness in our district, the beginning, there was the Concord Club, as they said, which was fashioned after the Rotary Club in 1925 in Kuala Lumpur, even before the formation of the Rotary Club Diraja of Kuala Lumpur. The prime mover of this particular Concord Club appears to be one H. Benjamin Talala with 4 of other friends. They met monthly with good food, good wine, good music, and good speeches at various venues like the Millionaires Club, the Masonic Hall in Damansara Road, or the Station Hotel, the only first-class hotel at that time in Kuala Lumpur. Many of you will know this. Next, it was Jim Davidson, an American of Canadian birth, and who was the special commissioner to help in the formation of Rotary clubs in Asia. He came with a letter from the British Foreign Secretary Neville Chamberlain to the Chief Secretary of Malaya in 1929. He is also known as the Marco Polo of Rotary, and with a special commission from RI, Rotary International, James W. Davidson traveled all around Asia down to Malaya from Thailand, and in Kuala Lumpur, he was instrumental in leading Malaysia, or Malaya then, to form many, many Rotary clubs. And that is why you found a sprout of clubs around 1929s and 1930s. And in fact, the Kuala Lumpur Club itself is 1930. And of course, James Davidson traveled all the way down to Malacca. From Malacca, he came through Johor Bahru, but he skipped Johor Bahru because he had an accident on the way. The car had broken down, and then they skipped Johor Bahru, and that is why Johor Bahru did not have a club in the 1930s. On he went to Singapore, and in Singapore he created the Rotary Club, or rather was instrumental in helping the Rotary Club of Singapore, our mother club. For your information, that the club that formed Johor Bahru Club, or Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, was the Singapore Club itself in 1930. Right. Our club, the early history is the birth of the club. I like to always say this, that our club was born in an anesthetist room. The seed for the founding of the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, Johor was spelled with the Johor then, was planted by an ex-Rotarian from Kuala Lumpur. He was Dr. Richard Howe Isaacs, an anesthetist who was posted to the General Hospital in Johor Bahru, now known as Hospital Sultanah Aminah. Rotary International Movement was already 46 years old then, having been founded in 1905 by Paul Harris, which all of you know. And in 1930, as I said, when Jim Davidson came over, he missed Johor Bahru, but he went on to Singapore. Howe Isaacs was a member of the Rotary Club of Kuala Lumpur, now Rotary Club Kuala Lumpur Diraja, while he worked in General Hospital Kuala Lumpur before coming to Johor Bahru. Richard Howe Isaacs had to tread on safe ground, as most NGOs were frowned upon by the royalty in Johor then. However, a Freemasons lodge named Johor Royal Lodge, number 3946, was already existing in Johor Bahru since its consecration in 1919. His Royal Highness Sultan Sir Abu Bakr Ibrahim, his son later Sultan Ismail, and a few royalty and others, including government officials of Freemasons too. His Royal Highness Sultan Ibrahim was the worshipful master of the lodge for 2 years, from 1922 to 1923. The lodge still exists to this day, and almost 50% of our Rotary Club members of Johor Bahru are Freemasons. Fortunately, Howe Isaacs had an audience with HRH Sultan Sir Ibrahim and got his approval to start a Rotary Club in Johor Bahru in late 1951. So you see that royalty was a bit averse to any new formations, but somehow, by the good nature of probably Howe Isaacs and his talk with HRH Sultan Ibrahim, we were able to form an NGO in the name of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. There was no Rotary Club in the whole of Johor State, rather, in the year 1951. And Rotary clubs were already opened in Kuala Lumpur, Malacca, Seremban, and Singapore around 1929 and 1930, as I mentioned earlier. Dr. Richard Howe Isaacs felt the need for such a club and went to Singapore for regular meetings of the Rotary Club of Singapore, chartered 6 June 1930. And with the help of the Rotary Club of Singapore, the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru was chartered on 27th of June 1952. So, my Rotarians, that is the birthday of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. And therefore, let us remember this date, 27th June 1952, a new chick is born, and that is the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. The installation of Richard Howe Isaacs as the first president of our club was held on 22nd June 1952 at the Johor, or rather Royal Johor International Club, and the late His Royal Highness Sultan Sir Ibrahim and a royal entourage graced the occasion. President Bertie Hogg of the Rotary Club of Singapore, our mother club, installed him. Since then, the royal household has always graced our installations. The Rotary International President at that time was H.J. Brunier, and the district governor was B.G. Koo Tek Ee. Let me tell you all Rotarians that the Rotary Club of Singapore gave birth to only one club at that time, and that club was Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, which means the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru is older than all other clubs in Singapore except the mother, what you call Rotary Club of Singapore, which means any other club that you can name in Singapore is junior to us in Johor. The international club was in Pasir Pelangi, and this was where many functions were held, many functions that the Sultan attended because it was in Pasir Pelangi, Istana area itself. And our Rotary was first meeting and installation was in this particular place, and many other meetings to go after that. Royal Johor International Club. This historic club is situated in the grounds of Istana Pasir Pelangi, or Istana Tulang Laut, as they can call it. It is adjacent to the Royal Polo Grounds. It was the venue for many a function in the 50s in Johor Bahru. It holds a special place for the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru in the sense that our consecration ceremony and the installation of our first president, Dr. Richard Harvey Isaacs, was held there. The occasion was graced by the late His Royal Highness Sultan Ibrahim, and since then till now, the royal household, as I said, has patronized our meetings. I found an old map in the collection of past President James Ho as a directory to this club for outstation members, and this is appended below. It was typewritten, hand-drawn, and cyclo-styled for distribution. Fantastic map that I shall show you all now. Next slide. Right, this was the map, 1952, where it shows the causeway, the Straits of Johor, and going up the causeway onto the left was the police station, as you all know, and then Hotel Malaya on the right-hand side. And there you see the path of the road going up until you come to Istana Tulang Laut. And that was the name of the Istana then. Today it's called Istana Pasir Pelangi. And if you go further up until you take a right turn again and you see the Johor, or rather Royal Johor International Club. And that was the venue of most of our meetings. Impressive. And President Richard Harvey Isaacs, no photograph available despite search. And the president of RI at the time was H.J. Brunier, as I said, and President Bertie Hogg of RC Singapore was the one who installed our Richard Harvey Isaacs as president of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, and DG Hu E Tek was then the DG, as I said. So the first installation of the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru was held on 22nd of July, 1952. His Royal Highness Sir Sultan Ibrahim, longest reigning monarch of Johor, was a friend to Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, and with his help, we had many things done. In fact, the use of the state emblem as our logo has been with his kind permission, and so on and so forth. There you see the state emblem and the flag is based on the colors of Johor itself, but this is our, what do you call, slogan and logo itself, Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. So our illustrious club banner, our club was chartered on the 27th of June, 1952, and was the first Rotary Club in the state of Johor. It had met with the approbation of reigning monarch, His Royal Highness Sultan Ibrahim. He gave the approval to use the state emblem, as I said, and the flag to be incorporated in our banner. And as I keep saying, rightly with the backing of our senior Rotarians, we are probably the only club in the whole world that has a state emblem and the flag in its banner as shown above, until I'm proven otherwise. Next, the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru's President's Badge of Office is of an exceptional quality and, of course, pride to the club. I'm very proud to say that the President's Badge of Office was shown as shown was a presentation from the state through the good offices of HRH Sultan Ibrahim to the club in its inception to our first president, Dr. Richard Harvey Isaacs. Interestingly, the badge has the state crest, as you can see, the crescent, as you can see, and the central star surrounded by 4 other stars as the 4 corners. Every president since then has worn it, and there was a time, we almost lost it. Right. On a personal note, and as a doctor and a surgeon, I am glad that a medical doctor, an anesthetist cum medical superintendent, started this club of ours. Yet another doctor a surgeon and a charter member of our club, Dr. Yo Bok Chun, wrote a brief history and formation of the club. This short history first appeared in our 25th anniversary souvenir program. And I have a copy of this 25th anniversary souvenir program in my hands. I append below this unedited text for your reading pleasure. The beginning of the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, according to the state surgeon at that time, Dato' Yo Bok Chun, in the early days of January 1951, a new state surgeon was appointed to the state of Johor, and that was himself. These were the days of emergency, and the Second World War had interfered with the training of medical students for 6 years. And graduate doctors were few and widely distributed in Malaya. So for nearly 1 year, the new state surgeon had to be a jack of all trades as well as the specialties were concerned. Then near the end of the year, an anesthetist was posted to the General Hospital, Johor Bahru, and he was none other than Dr. Richard Harvey Isaacs, who then had to share the anesthetic duties with those of being a medical superintendent of the hospital. Those were the days when we had to be multitasked and multi-dutied. And I remember my days in Sungai Bakap and Bukit Natajam, when as a sole surgical MO, we had to do multiple tasks too. Proficient in his double duties, Dr. Isaac had one consuming interest. He was a former Rotarian. He saw that this community knew very little about Rotary and had never had a Rotary club. So he decided to make good this deficiency. And as I told you, he visited Singapore Club and then gave him all the help and the advice he needed. The first meeting of interested people took place in October 1951, to be followed by other meetings at which members of the Singapore Club told us about Rotary. Eventually, a little over 20 interested Johorians got together to form the Provisional Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. We were sponsored by the Rotary Club of Singapore, as I said, and they sent in our application to Rotary International for approval and the granting of a charter. The weekly meetings of the Provisional Club of Johor Bahru were held weekly at the Johor Civil Service Club, who very kindly allowed us the use of the clubhouse. At first, we had lunch meetings just like other Rotary clubs, but we found that this did not suit our circumstances in Johor. Not knowing very much about Rotary, our membership was taken mostly from the leading government servants and also from the planters in the district, which was incorporating a circle of 25 miles from Johor Bahru. Our charter members, there were 20 charter members, and as you see on the list on the right-hand side, and there was Dr. Richard Harvey Isaacs at number 1 there, and Yap Kim Hock, Cecil A.F. Keynes, Dr. Yo Bok Chun, Chris Courtenay, Ernest Davis, Mark H. Ponenda, William G.C. Gross, Abdul Karim, Philip Mong M. Lee, Curly Lee as we called him, and H.E. Mackenzie, and Unku Abdullah bin Omar, Lee C. Peng, Dr. Edward C. Pink, who is pictured on the left-hand side, Ibrahim bin A.R. Rahman, R.A. Coles, J.A. Lepiwet, C.C. Renwick, E.A. Clampett, and Dato' Said Kadir bin Mohammed. These were the founder members of RCJB. And as you can see later on in years, that many of them did not become presidents, only a few that I have in the call. And I have a special mention here of Dato' E.C. Pink, the late E.C. Pink, who passed away. He was a gynecologist in the state service in Johor Bahru, and he, along with R.H. Isaacs, as well as, of course, Yo Bok Chun later, helped to bolster the club. And it is with the help of Dato' E.C. Pink that he got the Civil Service Club going, and with his kind permission too, as president of or chairman of the Civil Service Club, that we could use the hall for our meetings. Now, P.P. Yap Kim Hock was an enterprising man, and these were the only 2 founder members who were living until, of course, on 26 December 2007, Dato E.C. Ping passed away, and later Yap Kim Hock too passed away. In the words of PPKN Singh, Dr. KN Singh, he has delivered half of Johor, that is Dato E.C. Ping, as a gynecologist. He has delivered half of Johor and the royalty, and he's someone who has done so much for the community. This great Rotarian of ours passed away on the 26th of December 2007. He was 82 years old then. Thanks, KN, for those words. Right, the Civil Service Club, as you see, still there. Today is a restaurant, a Salase restaurant or whatever. And the Civil Service Club was booted out from here to another area where many of you know where it exists. And this is Dato E.C. Ping, a young man then. And of course, that was the crest of the Civil Service Club then, the rhino and the badge, which was the logo of this particular club, sometimes called the Drinkers Club. The government servants had to be back by 2 p.m., whilst the planters had to travel miles to and fro, which left them very little time for Rotary activities and fellowship. Obviously, the 1-hour luncheon meeting wasn't going to do, so changed to tea meetings starting at 5:15 p.m. as we are doing right now. Immediately, we were more relaxed, had more fellowship, and could go through more Rotary business, and the government officers did not have to leave at the end of an hour, and the planters did not have to hurry. The team meeting has been so successful that we have kept it all these years, even today. When the charter was granted to us, we held our inaugural installation meeting or dinner at the Royal Johor International Club on 22nd July, as I mentioned earlier. Prominent personalities from Johor and Singapore were present in force, as were also members of the Royal Rotary Club of Singapore, who turned up in force to see their Rotary child get to its feet, and the guest of honor was the late Sultan Ibrahim, and members of the royal family who graced the occasion. Ever since then, as I said, we have had royalty at all our functions, and this was written by Dato, past President Dato Dr. Yeo Bok Chun, a great man himself. Now, Dato Dr. Yeo Bok Chun, a doctor, a surgeon by training, a medical superintendent, an expert chess player, president of the Chess Club of Malaysia, orchid grower, an athlete, a no-nonsense man, and a Rotary disciplinarian. Now, I must mention this, that in the meetings those days, if anybody went out of line or did something like not mentioning President so-and-so or Rotarian so-and-so, Bok Chun will be the first to stand up and correct them and say, you are in a Rotary meeting. And he was such a disciplinarian and a very well-respected man. He was also very well known for his orchid growing. In fact, he had some orchids named after famous people, and there's one named after himself, and that is Bok Chunara Ko Bien Wat orchid. That's the name of the orchid after him, Dato Dr. Yeo Bok Chun. Great man. So the profile of our first president, Dr. R.H. Isaac, who was he? And what was he? Not many people seem to remember. Some people I have asked seem to think he was a Ceylon burger. Now, a Ceylon burger is a person of mixed parentage of Sri Lankan and Portuguese or Dutch later. Or he was also thought to be a Malayali, Indian Christian, etc. But actually, no. After some research, I found out that he actually was an Englishman. His full name was Dr. Richard Harvey Isaac from Cornwall, England. He apparently was in the medical corps of the British Army and was rumored to have been the ADC to General Templar. It is subject to verification. And General Templar, most of you older people will know. And in those days, early 50s, army doctors were seconded to government hospitals to help out. He was in fact posted to the General Hospital, Johor Bahru towards the end of 1951 as the anesthetist, and he doubled up as medical superintendent, as I said. And being an ex-Rotarian, he was keen and had the passion to start one. The rest of the story is in my first installment. Bearing in mind that Johor was a semi-independent state, it was also rumored that by a British subterfuge, that is, by a British subterfuge, and probably on the orders of General Sir Gerald Templar, that Dr. R.H. Isaac was posted to Johor Bahru to set up a social club. The reason being, Penang, Kuala Lumpur, and Malacca were way ahead in social and charity clubs like Rotary, and Johor Bahru was lagging behind. I don't know how far this is true. Dr. Richard Harvey Isaacs was often asked whether he was a Jew, on account of his last name Isaac. Now, Isaac is, of course, the name of the son of Abraham. Abraham had two sons. One was Ishmael from the bondmaid Hajar or Hagar, and of course, Isaac was a son from his wife Sarah. His reply was, in Cornwall, the name was so common that every second stone thrown in the air might fall on Isaac. And Isaac is a very famous Jewish name. In fact, further research shows that the Isaacs in Cornwall were probably from the Levant. Now, the Levant is the area which is called the East Mediterranean countries from Turkey to Egypt, who came to England, Cornwall, in search of tin a long time ago. They were mainly tin miners, and Cornwall area is famous for these migrants from the Levant, and Isaacs was a very popular name. Our first president did not complete his term of office. He was called for duty elsewhere and left halfway and supposedly went to the state of Kelantan to probably do another subterfuge. Later, he went to Malacca to be the medical chief in Dunlop at Dunlop House, where the HSBC Bank is now. It was said that his wife died in Malacca. Having completed his task of starting the Rotary Club of Johor by command, probably, he went on further afield. The trail in search of Dr. R.H. Isaac stops here. A Scotsman planter, H.E. Mackenzie, completed his term of office. The above happened on 23rd of July 2002. Musings in the past of RCJB, part of my writings in that year as a third issue for the Spoke. Yes, and despite many attempts at direct and lateral searches, I've been unable to get a photo of our first president. Sorry for that. 1952 and 1953, Charter President, of course, did not complete his term. No photo available. Dato H.E. Mackenzie took over. And the Vice President at that time was E.R. Davis, who took over from H.E. Mackenzie. As mentioned earlier, Isaac's anesthetist, being instrumental in forming the Rotary Club, had to leave for government service in Kota Bahru. Exactly how long he was president is not known. Few months, 6 months, we don't know. His term in office, as I said, was completed by a planter, and his classification was rubber industry, rubber producing. He was a Scotsman, born on the 12th of August, 1899, in Aberdeen, Aberdeenshire, Scotland. He was a founder member of RCJB and joined the club on 26th of February, 1952. He was general manager of a group of estates in and around Kota Tinggi and Ulu Tiram, but was resident in Ulu Tiram estate. His phone number, as recorded in the earlier directories, was interestingly Tiram 214. 3 numbers only. He was married and his wife was a nursing sister at the General Hospital, Johor Bahru. He was acknowledged a philanthropist by his peers, and along with his wife, did a lot of public service in true Rotary spirit. Now, between 53 and 54, E.R. Davis was the next president, but he did not complete his term too, and that was taken over by Dato Ibrahim bin Abdul Rahman, and President-elect Dato Ibrahim bin Abdul Rahman took over, and this means that the first Asian president of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru was actually a Malay personnel in the name of Dato Ibrahim bin Abdul Rahman. So, significant events of this year in office was to donate blood at the General Hospital and the organizing of a Christmas party for the handicapped children. President E.R. Davis did not complete his term like Harvey Isaacs, and Dato Ibrahim, as I said, took over. And also, as I said, Dr. Ibrahim must be acclaimed and acknowledged, the first Asian and first Malay president of our Rotary Club of Johor Bahru. 1954 and 1955 saw the illustrious ascent to literally the throne of Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, and that was by President Yeo Bok Chun, a very impressive Rotarian, disciplinarian, etc. And this photo was scanned from the president's page, and there you see it's not very clear. That was Dr. Yeo Bok Chun. President Dr. Yeo Bok Chun, charter member and the first Chinese to be the president of our club, was a state surgeon, proved to be a very dedicated Rotarian as he embarked on Rotary education as his main object. His writings of his first 25 years, I've already told you, are self-explanatory. He was born on 4th of June 1911 and was married to Datin Liang Peng Li. Their wedding anniversary was 8th January. They had 2 girls and none of them became doctors. P.P. Curly Lee called him a man of many parts. He was well known as an all-round athlete, an authority on orchids, and had classified all Malayan hybrid orchids. In his time, he was also the Malayan chess champion. He was a strict disciplinarian, as I said, and was the conscience of the club. This later was followed by P.P. James Ho, who was almost the conscience of the club and a disciplinarian too. During his term in office, he was instrumental in organizing the golden anniversary of the Rotary International in JB. It was in this year that the club won the District Attendance Shield for the first time. Incidentally, the club went on to win the District Attendance Award for the next 3 consecutive years, to the envy of the other clubs. The district governor in 1956 was Arthur Devadesan of Singapore, and at the 22nd annual conference of the 46th District Assembly at the Cathay Hotel, Singapore, he said, "I have very great pleasure indeed in announcing the district governor's shield for attendance goes to Johor Bahru Club, who has a percentage of 84%. That was a success those days. He is remembered apart from being other things for carrying out the first major project of our club, and that was the building of the clubhouse for the Unity Boys Club. This was one of the first youth projects in the state of Johor, and with the aid of members, this project was completed within his Rotary year. The club was built by another Rotarian, Mr. T. Tiong Tong, Mr. TTT, and the home was demolished a few years later by the government when a bus terminus was built in the site, opposite where the Amma restaurant is today. And this is the Unity Boys' Home, the first major project of our club. Indeed, the club was meant for boys who were strays, who had nothing to do, and who were caught whiling away their time, doing nothing or resorting to crime. And this noble project caught the eye of the government and gained praise for our club and President Bok Chun. The picture on the left came in the form of a greeting card that Rotarians bought and sent around with a view for collecting charity too. And the second part of the card is as shown below, which is as a greeting and money collected to complete the home and raise funds for the upkeep of the club. Now, RCJB cupboard donated by Rotarian TTT was last seen in the Civil Service Club. I don't know whether it is still there. This was one of our cupboards that our early club had. And in 1954-55, you have District Governor Pia Sriwasa of Thailand visiting us in 1954. And there you see Dr. Yeo Bok Chun, District Governor Pia Sriwasa, Robert Kok Mien, and then Mr. TTT, and many others. I have got their names underneath here, including PGM Lee. Now, PGM Lee, or Curly Lee as we called him, was a great man. Now, the only reason why we call him Curly is because he was totally bald. Anyway, that is history. DG Pia Sriwasa, 1954-1955, District 46, we were in District 46 then, was a marquis and a comptroller of the royal household of His Majesty the King of Thailand. He was a cultured diplomat and was for many years the military attaché at the Siamese Embassy in Paris. His visit to RCJB was in his capacity as district governor of District 46. The president of RCJB, I told you, was Yo Bok Chun, our state surgeon. And the directory of 1954-1955 is here for you to see, and that is called the Golden Anniversary Project, published by the Rotary Club of Penang on behalf of the Club of District 46. And in this, you find in Johor Bahru, the club is called Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, year of organization, 1952, meetings, Tuesdays, 5:15, as we are doing today, Johor Civil Service Club, Johor Bahru, President Yo Bok Chun, blah, blah. So, which means in the directory of 1954-55, which is in my hands, you have the entry of our club, there is. Okay? And these are some of the proceedings, the report of proceedings, annual conference of the 46th District International, Rotary International, in my possession too, and the 22nd Annual Conference, 46th District, also in my possession, the function that was held in the Cathay Hotel in Singapore. I have quite a number of photos of this particular meeting. RI Golden Anniversary booklet was produced by the Rotary Club of Kuala Lumpur, and there it is, 1905 to 1955. What a nice souvenir book. Also in my possession. And Constitution and Bylaws of Rotary Clubs, July 1956. It is all there for you to see. And the year, of course, of publishing is 1956. There's an interesting four-way test in all four languages that our club ventured to make in 1956. And it's interesting because all the four languages of Malay, English, Mandarin, and also Tamil, that is there to tell you of all that we do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So this four-way test was made by our club in 1956. And I still have one of this in my collection. So that's the end of part one, my dear Rotarians, because I can't go on with the other presidents and further on, including the major projects that we did, all has to come on the second and third part. So I will end my talk here, well within 6:30, and to pass it on to President CNC. Now I shall end my talk by stopping and sharing. Thank you, President. You are muted, President.
Thank you, Dr. Shan, for the good and entertaining thoughts. I would like to ask the floor, members of the floor, for if anybody has any questions. Anybody?
Can I say something?
PDG John Chia, please.
Frankly speaking, the talk given by Dr. Shan, as usual, is very informative, and I like it. I will hope that his part 1, part 2, or part 3, or even part 4 will include some of the first things that we have done in Johor Bahru Club. For example, like dialysis. Later on in your part 3 or part 4, you will talk about dialysis works that we are doing. First in the whole country. And then also don't forget the first later on that we have done, Dr. Shan, if you are able, that you have got Dr. Siva, who is the beginning of dengue control in RCJB. Please say it out in the part 3 or part 4, because this is what you have done for us before, Dr. Shan.
Yes,
so
yes.
Please remember all the first that our club has done. Dr. Siva, you are recognized for being the first of putting RCJB to do dengue control works with the COMBE fundings. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, PDG. Thank you, PDG, for recognizing me.
Okay, PDG engineer John Chia, can I say this? If you notice that my part one stopped at 1956,
Yes, that's right. Yes.
so I've got a
I
long
saw
way
that.
to go.
So that's why I asked for part 3, part 4 lah. Sorry.
Our illustrious club has had a lot of fuss, being one of the early clubs in Johor. So,
Yes, that's right.
of
Thank
course,
you.
when my book comes out, all the projects will be there.
Oh,
Thank you,
got a
thank you.
book, John. Sorry, Dr. Shan. Oh, you got a book
It's
coming
still
out. Huh?
RCJB, yes.
Yeah, pardon me, Dr. Shan. We must not forget our East Malaysia side. I thought the Rotary Club Kuching was about 50s, isn't it?
Yes,
Is
52.
them up? Huh?
Yes.
They're
Kuching
probably
is
older than
no.
us, huh? Yeah?
Yes. No, but I'm not talking that we are older than anybody. I'm just saying in
Oh.
Johor, we are number one.
Oh, Kuching was what year, Dr. Shan? 1950?
52, if I'm not mistaken, or 151 or 52.
Oh, almost a...
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Sean, Edward Pink was the charter treasurer of our club. And he was very proud of the fact that a gynae can be a treasurer. So there you are, Ken, saying there's a job waiting for you in our club anytime.
I wish we had Henny back, and there's
Yeah,
He's back.
Very good.
Big giant, huh? So yeah, but Dr. Chan, I remember, you know, this Rotary movement has a social agenda. You know, in the 1920s, it was part of the colonial thing, you know, to have a kind of middle ground where the colonial part, you know, could actually meet with the locals in a social way. You know? There was a social agenda in that sense, you know, if I'm not wrong. And if very interestingly, if you notice in Dr. Shan's slide, 1954, 53, we have in the sense that you have, I saw this Robert Kwok was there, J.C. Chiang, and Dato Somerville. You know, Somerville was the last British advisor to Johor State. You know, so they were all in the 54 class, if I can say that. Huh?
Yes. You're right. Somerville was a member too. But as you said, Somerville was the last British advisor. But the first British advisor to Johor was actually, as I said, Campbell in 1909.
Or 1914 thereabout. Huh? And you notice Robert Koch was there too, you know. Huh? Sean, I saw your
That's right, Robert Koch.
And J.C. Chang and all that, you know. And illustrious members then. And talking about General Templar, sorry, I just add in. I remember going to visit our late P.P. Kehua's estate in Pekananas. And he always had these pictures of General Templar visiting his pineapple
Plantation, yeah.
Templar did visit our Kehua's plantation in Pekananas. You can see quite a lot of pictures of the general there, no? Just for information. Anybody else want to ask say anything?
Not bad, huh?
Reminisce on
President, let me say something about this Rotary club formations all over the world. You see, this guy, James Davidson, who was a Canadian but resident in America, USA, was particularly chosen by RI to go all over Asia, start clubs. That's what he did. So to mix with the locals, make them understand what Rotary is, and that's how Rotary started. In fact, the clubs in Penang, Ipoh, Kuala Lumpur, Seremban, and Malacca skipped Johor Bahru and went to Singapore. And that's how the clubs first started in Malaya. But as I said, there was a semblance of a club in 1925 in Kuala Lumpur called, of course, the Concordat Club, which was run by Benjamin Talala. And Benjamin Talala was an Anglophile. His sons were pilots in the British Air Force during the war. And actually, they got the idea of Rotary from there. But then Malaya did not have Rotary Club then in the 40s. In the early 20s,
Oh, yes, Dr. Chan, I remember saw a documentary on this pilot, this Talala, and he was in the Royal Air Force and he was killed over France, I think, in the Second
Yes,
World
yes,
War.
yes. There's
Huh?
a grave there.
Documentary, you know?
We've got a grave there. There's a Talala family.
Correct, something like that, you know. Leslie, I think I saw you want to say something. You saw a raise hand.
Well, there's an interesting story about Curly Lee, you know. He once wrote to the club and asked for 600 ringgit to buy rugby jerseys, rugby t-shirts for his rugby team. And the club turned him down and said, look, Curly, you know, we can't help you with this because it's not charity. So Curly was very upset. He wrote to Robert Koch. He said, Robert, these guys won't help me with my team. Will you please give me the $600? And Robert sent the money to him.
Good old Robert. He's still around, you know. Yes, Ken Singh, our Ghani and potential treasurer.
Potential treasure.
Incidentally,
Next treasurer.
that's a good one. Far back in the club CNC, you need to do 2 postings before you became a president. One of them was secretary, the other was treasurer. I think we've done all that. It was mandatory, if you remember, in our club. Leslie will tell you that you got to fill those 2 positions before you ever think of president. You know, so anyway, I was going to tell you about this Talala brothers. There were 2 brothers, actually, Talala brothers. They were Malaysian. In fact, his son is married to a gynecologist in KL, and I still have connections with that family. These 2 were fascinating pilots, you know. They flew Spitfires, and you're right, one of them died over France, and later they brought back his body. And in fact, the place that he died, that location is named after him because they did so much. Actually, the Malayan Air Force, you know, the Malaysians who joined the Air Force did a lot together with the Sikhs of the Indian Air Force who had joined, and those days it was all British Air Force. And sadly enough, the British never ever gave them any credible recognition, even until now. But I mean, that's all history. But Asia had a lot, so had China, a lot to do with the wars. They sacrificed the most people in the wars. And the British, as usual, being ungrateful, never thanked any nation for it, even now. But anyway, that's another talk for our friend Shan one of these days. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Dr. Shan. Can I ask something?
Pauline, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Pauline.
Dr. Shan, it's a good sharing, though I was not born yet. Yeah, I saw in the pamphlets there's District 46. How does it come to now District 3310?
Oh, you see, when we first started, we were part of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Malaya, Singapore, and Borneo. That included Brunei, Sabah, Sarawak, and everything. We were District 46, then we became undistricted. And after being undistricted, after a long time, we were even District 8 at one time. Then we became District 300. Then District 300 split into 2, and that is when John Chia comes in. He was the last of the Mohicans, the last DG of 300. And it split into District 330 and 3301. 31, whichever way. Anyway, it split into 300, split into 2. So finally, we are what we are now. So actually, we were 46, we were 8, we were unrestricted during the war, and later 300. And through 300, we are now into 2 halves. That means the whole of the North region went ahead, became Kuala Lumpur and everything else, District 3300, and we were 3310. Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia became separate after that. That is why you had people like Pia Srivasa coming as DG to our district. And the Thais did a lot, in fact, in those days.
Okay. Wow. It's really a long history.
It's a really amazing, as usual, you know, we are going to run out of time, and there's so much memories, no? What's really amazing is Rotary Club of Johor Bahru, pardon me saying that, runs almost parallel with the Lodge of Freemasonry. I was quite surprised to learn that half of the Rotarians in Johor Bahru today are also on the other side. And I'm glad that Dr. Shan, you are actually in the Rotary Club first before you were at the lodge. So,
Mr.
I like the
President,
way you say I'm on the other side.
So, time is always short. Joe, can you just show our letter, our certificate of appreciation, Joe?